Good morning, Sasha and Hope. I know I have not done a ton of these videos, but I'm trying to get back into the process and batching a few of these. So today I'm going to talk a little bit just about the series that we're starting in church. If you've not been following it, it's not too late to jump on that bandwagon. It's a really good series so far. I'm walking through the book of Hebrews. It's not exactly a verse by verse analysis of it, but Ryan started out last week really sort of with what is kind of chapter one sort of mostly about. And then Anthony talked this week about what it was about. So I'm going to kind of go back a little bit just because it's about about starting the series and the Hebrews 1. And the Hebrews is written by, we're not sure who, but sort of the theme, the overall theme is that at least of this series is that Jesus is greater. And really, from what I remember, and I've only now gone through and read Hebrews chapter 1, but what I remembered before was really just setting up how Jesus is so much more than just a prophet, just an angel, just anything else, that he really is kind of leaps and bounds, obviously, ahead of anything else that had come before. And it's really the justification why there's really no need to have anything afterwards. In fact, in Hebrews 1, it talks about how Jesus is the exact representation of God because he is God. He's one of the three parts of the Trinity. And so once you're no longer looking at a carbon copy or an image, a copy of a copy of a copy is not the best representation. But once you're actually looking at God himself come down to man form, like what else do you need to be said? And this was something that was, I think encouraging to the folks in Hebrew, that the audience of Hebrews, because it was Jewish believers, and they would be probably the most persecuted of all. I believe that the Jews at the time were being persecuted overall, and then you had a subsect within them that they would have been recognized as Jews, so they would have been persecuted like all the Jews, but the Jews themselves would have then turned around and persecuted them because they were believing in Jesus, which the Jews would have considered heresy or being a false prophet. And so the encouragement is that even though you're suffering now, what you're able to actually, access, what you're able to kind of see and hear and speak to God about is just the exact representation of Jesus, of who God is. In fact, we have this just tremendous opportunity to interact with the God of the universe, which had never been, for the masses, had never been really available before. You had Moses, who was able to go up and sort of speak with God, as in the Bible says, God would speak to Moses as a man speaks to a friend face to face. But really beyond that, you really didn't have. I'm going to pause here because I'm outside and there's an airplane flying overhead. It's a little noisy here, but it's such great weather. I just thought I'm going to enjoy our patio furniture here. So anyway, just that only a few people. Moses is really the only one that comes to mind who really, spoke to God face to face as a man speaks to a friend. But now that Jesus has torn away that veil, we all have that option, all have the availability to speak to God, literally face to face, and to have Jesus sit at the right hand of God and intercede on behalf of us was really, to a Jew would have been really like just mind blowing, I think, and just the privilege that we have to do that. I think a lot of times we lose that. I think that just as Christians, we sort of take for granted, yeah, Jesus, right hand of God, we're able to go into the throne. I think if we had to kind of live through that massive veil and this idea that God is separated from man because of our sin, and that the only opportunity we have to speak to God is to go through rituals and purifications, and once a year someone can go inside. I think that if that had kind of been your mindset as you grew up, I think you would take the opportunity to go sit at the feet of the Father as wow, like just as kind of a mind-blowing privilege. And then so to some degree, I think we lose a little bit of that. But anyway, just want to encourage you to get into the series. It's really good so far. Only had 2 weeks, but it's going to be what our small group is going to be going through. We're going to try something a little different, hopefully, where we're not just covering questions over the sermon, but really over maybe like the whole chapter. So instead of just what Ryan spoke about. We'll talk about all of chapter 1, or just what Anthony spoke about. We'll kind of cover all of chapter 2. So hopefully that'll give us a little bit more depth in our Bible study. So I'm kind of looking forward to that, because I know that I've kind of been itching to try to make our small groups a little bit more robust and have a little bit more meat to them, where we can go a little deeper. So hopefully that'll work out. So anyway, miss you guys. I hope you guys have a great week. Love you. Bye-bye.